So, and you're from North Carolina, right?
Originally from Massachusetts, but I've been in North Carolina for most of my adult life at this point. So
Okay. Do you ever call it massive two shits?
I haven't, but I feel
Oh.
like now I have to.
So today on the episode, we have Jennifer Lyle. She is the current world's third strongest woman. She is from North Carolina and she is competing at the Pro Arnold this year. So welcome, Jen. Super happy to have you on here. We competed side by side at World's Strongest Woman this last December. And it was a really fun show and definitely excited to watch you kill it on the pro stage this year.
I'm excited. Thanks for having
I'm
me.
excited too. Of course. So how
That's
is your
nice.
body feeling going into to prep? Are you on your deload already?
Yes. I
Nice.
mean, okay, so I'm gonna say hopefully yes. I get week by week programs.
Okay.
And so like they don't usually get updated until Sunday, either like Sunday nights or usually sometime early Monday. So I
Right.
never know what the week is going to look like. But I'm pretty sure my last session was yesterday. So unless he decides to just wreck me this week,
Oh God.
he's
And
just
who's your
hanging out.
coach?
Taylor Gone,
Okay. I don't know who that is.
you might recognize him. Big beard. Sometimes he walks around with his little Chihuahua Taco. People recognize Taco a lot easier.
I love how it's always the big dudes with the small dogs.
It is. It's so great.
Does he go to your gym?
He doesn't. He actually lives in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay.
So like pretty much all of our work has been remote and like through video assessments and stuff like that.
Right.
He did come down and he stayed with me for a week a couple weeks ago, just to get
Nice.
some like in person, which
Yep.
helped a lot with this prep
Yeah.
being like one of the heaviest and sort of biggest stages I've been on. So that was nice.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. So, and you're from North Carolina, right?
Originally from Massachusetts, but I've been in North Carolina for most of my adult life at this point. So
Okay. Do you ever call it massive two shits?
I haven't, but I feel
Oh.
like now I have to.
So I do want to ask you like your origin story. So I know a little bit about you as an athlete, but I'd like to get to know you more as a person. So where did your athletic career start and when did you find strongman and how did you find strongman? Because everyone's story is so different.
So as far as athletics, in late middle school, maybe like junior high time frame, I started doing martial arts,
Mm.
and did that through high school. Ended up getting my second degree black belt when I was like 16. Um,
Dang, she's
so
dangerous.
then went off to college, didn't really do anything athletic wise in college, and decided at 19 to run off and get married because that's a super good idea. And then
The best idea. 19-year-olds
um,
know what they want.
exactly. And they're always right. Can't talk them out of
Oh, no.
it. um, so didn't really do much athletic wise until maybe my mid 20s. I had already had my daughter and I was having a lot of um, back pain and ended up finding powerlifting. Um, did that for a few years, kind of in the garage by myself. Um, and then after a few years, just really wanted a group. I
Yeah.
wanted like friends. I kind of was isolated here, didn't have anyone around that I really knew. So I was on Instagram one day, found Nancy Johnson, um,
Hmm.
which plenty of people know really well. And she was local at the time, and she was training with a team. And I was like, "Ah, oh, this chick is awesome! Like, I want to be like her." So
Hmm.
I went out and started training with the team, and that's how I found strongman and just kind of really enjoyed it. So
Nice. And how
stuck
old
with
were
it.
you when you found it?
Ooh, 32, early
Okay.
30s,
Okay. And if you don't mind, how old are you now? So like how many years have you been in the sport for?
37.
Okay,
Just
so
turned
five.
37. So
Happy birthday. So 5 years. So what did Strongman look like for you? You said that this is one of your bigger international stages that you've been on. So what stages have you been on prior?
so my first real year of competing was 2020, so we didn't have a lot of
Mm,
options that year because a lot of
COVID.
things shut down. um,
Hmm.
but did, a handful of local competitions. I did nationals, I think 3 times. Um,
Okay.
once in Virginia, and I think twice in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Um, and then went to the Arnold Amateur 3 times total,
Nice.
and I think OSG also 3 times total. But that's it.
Nice. And did you ever get your pro card through all of this, or did you just kind of YOLO and just kept competing?
I did get my pro card. So I got my pro card at Nationals in 2023. Um, and then did Arnold Amateur. And then all of 2024. No, no. So I would have gotten it fall of 22.
Okay.
And then 23, I did Arnold Amateur, but then wasn't really able to compete much that year. Um, just I was going through divorce and all that, like solo parenting. So was really
Hmm.
focused on trying to get that settled. Um,
Hmm.
so I didn't do much competing, and then did OSG that year. Um, and because I hadn't competed as a pro, what I was told by Strongman Core rules, I was eligible to do Arnold Amateur again, because I had
Hmm.
made it to finals in 2023, and then hadn't competed as a pro, which pretty much like would have lapsed, I guess, my pro card time or something.
Right.
Um, and so it came down to if I was willing to put my pro card on the line. So it was a choice
Hmm.
of if I do this again, but I don't win, I'm back to being an amateur. Or I could
Hmm.
go in and win and keep my pro card.
Right.
So it just ended
That's a
up being a
gamble.
gamble. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And you went back and you did it and you kept your status, or you just
I
didn't
did.
risk it? Atta
No, I did,
girl.
of course. Yeah. I went back and I said, like it took me a few years to get it, but really I'm in this to compete and
Hmm.
enjoy myself regardless. So why not
Yeah.
take the risk?
Yeah.
And it ended up paying off.
Nice. And that was 23 or 24 Arnold Amateur.
That would have been 24 Arnold Amateur.
Okay, so last March.
Yes.
Okay. And then that's where you earned your invite to Arnold Pro 25.
Yes.
Okay. Was there was that a guaranteed invite?
I don't think so. I think from what I have pieced together from what I've been told,
Mhm.
um, it it was never in writing that it would be a
Mm,
certain invite. It had just historically led to that
right.
invite.
Yeah.
So up until I think maybe this past December, it wasn't anything in writing.
What?
um, and so I guess late last year, James Deffenbaugh, when he became like the official owner, um, an agreement in writing, which
Yeah.
is where the kind of pro am came from because
Hmm.
it is like an official pathway now, from my
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just kind of an implied sort of thing.
Well, and it kind of always has been like there was a system in place up until 2019 was the last year, I believe, that there was a system. In 2018, there was strongest woman in the world in Norway. All the podiums, lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight, got invites to the Arnold Pro. And then 2019 was in Alaska. And again, that strongest woman in the world was always the biggest because the entire podium got the invite. But then there was Arnold Spain, first place got an invite. So like wherever there was an Arnold, first place always got, except for SWU. And then the first place at the heavyweight, I believe at the amateur, that was always an invite spot. So if there was a very clear pathway when Dion was running Strongman Corp and when
Mhm.
Dion had the pro women on stage, but I believe all of that kind of just went up in the air once Rogue bought it. So
Yep.
there was a pathway, but just not through Rogue.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah, which
it's
seems to be where the sort of issue came up was when that handoff sort of happened for the women.
Yeah, yeah. And Rogue is really good at knowing CrossFit, but knowing the history of strongman, that's just been absent in the last
Yeah,
couple of years.
I
So
agree
it's
with that.
good to know that there's now an official pathway. Very thankful for the owners now for insisting.
Absolutely.
So, okay, cool. So then you really didn't know until December. And like I think we saw each other at the Shaw and we were talking about that. And you weren't sure then either. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wasn't sure through OSG. I was approached a lot at OSG. I didn't know until so they released the first roster on the Arnold Sports Instagram page, and I was not on it. I
Mm-hmm.
assumed at that point that I had just was not going to get an invite. Um, and then the post was taken down very quickly. Um, and then I got a message from both James and the Arnold Sports page a few days later, maybe 5 minutes before the new roster went live, saying, "Hey, you're on it. Here's like your image and stuff." So
That's so stressful.
it is. I was at a work meeting that morning and like I was in a secure space, so I couldn't have my phone. And so like
Mhm.
I come out and I'm like not thinking anything of it, and I check my phone and it's just blowing up. And I'm like, what is
Mhm.
what is going on? And then I see the message from Arnold Sports, and I was like,
Yep.
oh.
Yeah. Well, and then all the top 10 women are just like, yes. I know I was probably one of those DMs. So, well, that's honestly so frustrating because years prior, the 3 years prior, all of the heavyweights got invites and not just the heavyweights, the 82s as well, because that's how Sam Beliveau got in was she was an 82 and she got her invite there.
Mhm.
So 3, 4 years before you, like the top seat was going for the Arnold Pro. So that's I'm glad they followed through.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
That
a
would have
lot
been
of sense.
terrible. Yeah. Yeah, because like at OSG, I was getting the same questions. How come you're not on the roster? It's like, don't
Yeah,
know. But you know what? That's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I mean, but
Um,
it's a valid point, right? Like, there's a lot, especially in the open women's class. There are so many
mhm,
athletes out there that I mean would really put on an amazing show. Um,
yeah.
and I think it's really just like we have to keep pushing, right? Like
Yeah.
to
Have,
get everyone up there.
okay, so you kind of mentioned your PR. So what are some of your personal goals in strongman that you've hit along the way? And what are some of the goals that you're looking to hit at the Arnold or this year coming up?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I think when I first started strongman, my deadlift and powerlifting was probably my worst of the three events. Um, and at the time, I couldn't even hit 405, or I think I had finally hit 405. Um, and so hitting 500 for the first time on deadlift was amazing. Um,
Hmm.
I'm hoping to clear six this year.
Nice.
Um, and then I think in overhead, I struggle with overhead so badly that I think 200 was my big, like, what's it going to be like to press 200 over my head?
Yeah.
Um, and now I think I think if I can get at least a rep or two on that 270 next weekend, I think
Hmm.
that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to put up 300. It's coming.
That's a
It's
big
coming.
number.
It's a big number, but like here's the thing that I find so intriguing. Back when I first started, so 2016, 300 pounds was the open heavy record for men. And now it's kind of now the staple as a strong woman as a pro. You either
Yeah.
have a 300 overhead or you don't. And it's just like, what? So 250 isn't enough anymore? Like
Yeah.
what? Ah. And
Yeah.
600 is the average deadlift. Like I remember that was the average deadlift of the open heavy men back in 2016. Like it's come so far and it's just like it's crazy how strong you have to be now in order to be considered the 1% in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I remember when I got my first coach in powerlifting. I remember watching a video of one of the first females to ever pull 500 pounds.
Hmm.
And I remember messaging him and being like, one day, like, I don't care how long it takes, one day,
Yeah.
I'm going to pull 500 pounds. And he was like, yeah, I totally believe you. And he came out to OSG for day two. So the day we did the axle deadlift. And so he got to watch
Ugh.
me pull 550 on an axle for multiple reps. And I was just like, dude, do you remember that conversation we had like so many years ago?
Yeah. But yeah, like the sport has come so far in such a little time too. I'm really interested to see almost where it goes in the next 2 to 3 years because it just keeps getting heavier and heavier. So like we'll
Yeah.
probably see Inez put up 400 pounds next weekend. We will probably see some of the men put up 550 or more. Like to think that 600 pounds overhead is almost achievable for men. That is crazy.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. So I'm so curious, how are you when it comes to like watching strongman stuff? Are you like obsessed with it? Are you not obsessed with it? Do you like pay attention to what's going on or do you just like hear about it and go, "Oh, that's cool," and then just go to the gym like a normal day?
Um, I think I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm definitely not obsessive about it, but like I do see stuff. Um, but I am terrible, terrible, especially in prep, about following any women. So like
Yeah.
I mute a
No,
lot of
that's
them and
real.
like it's
Yep.
absolutely not personal, but like
No.
I can't nope.
Oh, girl. No, I do that too. And it's not that I hate any of you. It's just I don't want to get stuck in the comparison game and then mess up my mental game. It's not
Yep.
personal. It's just I need to focus and I just need to keep a level head and like a good mindset. No, that's understandable because I know a lot of girls who do that.
Yeah. Or even just comparing, not like comparing numbers, but even
Mhm.
trying to like mess with technique, right? Because we all have such different
Yeah.
leverages and um, just everything that you're
Yeah.
watching someone, it's like, oh, but they're doing it this way. And it's like, yeah, but you have arms like a T-Rex, and that's just not going to work for you. So just stop. Like you're going to
See,
hurt yourself and it's not going to be good.
it's true. There are some girls that I don't mute. I don't bother doing any of that because like you said, their levers aren't even mine. Like I have a 6'2" wingspan and I'm 6 feet tall. So like my arms are so long that even if I look at you lift overhead or Katie or Rebecca, well, no, because she's got a really long torso and I got a little short torso. So like I can look at you guys, no problem, and just be like, oh, that's nice for you. But it's just like, okay, so where are the long girls over here? Like, who's got the Larry long arms? I don't like that's who I want to watch because there's no form or technique that I can replicate from any of you T Rexes. It just won't work.
Yeah, it's true.
So
Although
I've
I
stopped
also have a
muting
tater
people.
tot torso, so I feel you. That's 100% like going into this overhead medley, which is
Hmm.
something that I think I really had to think about with the different implements. And I don't wear much equipment to begin with. And
Hmm.
I mean, I guess it helps that something like the circus dumbbell is first because I like
Yeah.
using my belt for circus dumbbell, but not
Yeah.
for anything else. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to have it on for the dumbbell and then it's getting dropped.
Right. So the weights for that is a 1 154 circus dumbbell,
Yep.
a 175 natural stone. Have you been using like a block or a sandbag to press?
I actually was fortunate enough to pick up some lighter natural stones. Um,
Nice.
so I have, a couple of those in the lighter 100 range that I've worked with, but
Hmm.
sandbag
Yeah.
mostly.
Well, and like I know that with a stone, how you grip it, it's different for every single stone. But
Yeah.
when it comes to like the uncertainty, a sandbag is good because you can't control the weight at all slash
Hmm.
ever. So that's smart. And then you have two options for log, the 220 or the 270. Is that like a log for reps afterwards?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's like a 60-second or 75-second time frame, and then as many
Um,
logs as possible.
I think it might be 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. What? So then the frame, the 586 frame, do you wear a belt for that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And is this the one where you're walking it up an incline?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Have you been training like uphill?
So when my coach was here, he found, which I'm glad he found them. I forgot we had them, but we have boat docks,
Ooh.
like a real short drive away, and he was driving around town and found them.
Hmm.
So we brought one of our frames and a bunch of plates out to the boat docks.
Nice.
And he had me run up the boat docks, and it was terrifying, actually, but it's
I
fine.
think you
We
posted
got
that
through
on your
it.
story, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. And I was like, "Oh, that's a smart way of doing it." But I'd be terrified if like the wood fell through.
Yeah. Yeah. So he, I guess, didn't realize that I'm not a huge fan of water. And so he dropped the frame out there and he's loading plates. And I was like, that's fine. It looks stable. Just tell myself it's fine. Like, water's not that deep. It'll be okay. And then he starts throwing plates on and like the dock starts swaying. And I just have to turn around. I'll, I'll be okay.
Did you watch the Magnuson Classic last year? I think it was after OSG. Might have been before. Either way, it was like a yoke run on the dock to farmer carry on the sand. And it's just like I was watching it and I'd be like, I'd be terrified that that
Yeah.
dock would just give under the weight of that yoke. Cause I think it was maybe 1,000 pound yoke. And it's like
Oh,
plus
yeah.
like the weight of the man. So like a 12 to 1,300 pound yoke. Ugh, on a dock.
Yeah.
Like
No.
imagine it falling through and just like burying you in the water. That's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Sorry. I'm glad that's over and that you don't have
Yeah, yeah. I'll be glad
you're
next
just
week that
like,
it's at
"Ugh."
least not over water.
Yeah. Honestly, Jen, just run fast. Just run as fast as you can and it'll
Yeah,
all be over soon.
that's the answer. Just shuffle. Just shuffle those
Yeah.
little legs as fast.
With the deadlift, now I watched you pull 700 pounds at the Shaw. What deadlift would you say is easier? Axle, where it's like a 2 inch diameter, 2 inches further away from your center of mass, a regular deadlift bar, a stiff deadlift bar, or an elephant deadlift bar, where it's the whippiest. So, what deadlift would you say is your favorite to lift? Or a trap bar? Let's include a trap bar. Why not?
Oh, no, let's not. Uh,
Why? I love them.
ooh, I don't know. It's trap bar just I can never seem to really consistently find like a good foot placing with it.
Fair. That's totally
So
fair. So then
I
you must
think
hate like the 18-inch static monster deadlift.
I don't.
Okay. Neither do I. I love it. Anyways, back to you. What's your favorite
Um,
deadlift? And what's your least favorite of those two? And why?
ooh, my least favorite. So I think
Mhm,
my favorite is just regular deadlift bar.
mhm.
Um, least favorite's obviously trap bar, if we're gonna include that one.
So why a
um,
regular and why the trap bar?
um, for the trap bar again, like I can never consistently like with a regular deadlift, any kind of straight bar, I know where the bar has to be on
Mm,
my foot, to get into place. So I
yep.
can pretty consistently know where I need to be. But with trap bar, I can't seem to like consistently find that place. So it's just like
Right.
this weird feel it out thing. And I just,
Right.
nah,
No
I'll leave it.
consistency. That's fair. I love a stiff bar. Like I love to know that as soon as I stand up, the weight is in my hands and I love to feel that.
Mhm.
I also love a trap bar just because of how big and wide I am. I like to feel locked in. And because I'm good at farmers, it feels similar to me. So like I like to feel that unison all in one. And I feel like I can lift heavier in a frame or a trap bar. And I absolutely hate a whippy bar. I just can't stand it. It's such a lie. You start to pull and you're like, ooh, that's easy. And it's such a lie. It's a lie deadlift, and I hate it. I hate liars. It's demonic and I hate it.
I get that though. I get that.
Okay, so my next question to you is the max jerk. How has that been going?
Um, Better than I originally anticipated.
Good.
Um, we had to change technique entirely a few weeks ago. um,
That's so
because
close.
so I know, but like, so at the Shaw, I messed up my shoulder on my very last rep of
Oh.
circus dumbbell. Um, and so I've been trying to rehab it since, but of course, like
Hmm.
I didn't have too much time before OSG prep.
Hmm.
And then less time after OSG to go into this prep. Um, and so I still can't, without a lot of like prep work, I can't comfortably get into a behind the neck position.
Yep.
And so when we first started prep, I was just going to do from a front rack. But that was putting a lot of pressure the heavier I went onto my wrist, which was
Mhm.
making it feel terrible. And so a few weeks ago, I was finally able to get the bar into behind the neck position. So we just started loading that way.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the shoulder just,
What are your thoughts on the behind the neck press?
I mean, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the people that do choose to go that route, like how they go about doing it. Cause like it's
How
never,
political of you.
I mean, like, I don't dislike it. I think my main
Okay.
issue with it right now is a very personal one
Right.
because I can't get into position and it's frustrating because typically my mobility or anything like that isn't an issue with getting bars
Mm,
behind me.
right.
Um, and so, like, it's more just a frustration. But I think
Mm,
it's super cool watching people that can, like, utilize it
mm,
and, you know, put up really big numbers
yeah.
with like a solid jerk technique and stuff. I think it's great. I love
Mhm.
watching it.
Now, what are your predictions for this? What weight do you think the women will hit? Because for me, this has been fun because I think this year is probably one of the better years because there's people that I know and there's two new faces this year. There's you and Gabby. So I am just very interested to see what weight the women put up. Obviously, I think the middleweights will probably crack 300, but I think the open weights are going to be anywhere from 325 to 400. So what are your predictions?
Ooh, I think so. I think the top three, again, I don't follow like, I haven't actively been looking at everyone's stuff.
That's fine.
Um, but I would say that probably the top four in that event are going to be Inez, Sam, AJ, and Olga. Um, I know I happened to see on Reddit the other day, and then I got yelled at by my coach because he thinks I'm like looking for it. Um, I know Sam put up 330 a few
Okay.
weeks ago. Um, so I'm willing to bet she's going to push Inez on that one. And I know
Mm,
AJ keeps all her lifts kind of close to the vest, but
she does.
she's great. So I can see her getting up there as well. Um,
You think it's going to be Sam over Andrea?
I would say yes, only because
Hmm.
I happened to see, I think Andrea decided to go back to front rack.
Ooh.
Um, I think she mentioned something about her wrist or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't
Mm.
know, but we'll see.
And Olga doesn't post anything. She just posts about her in the sauna all the time, just making me jealous constantly. She never posts the way she lives. That
Everyone's too
bitch.
secretive. Not that we're
I know.
supposed to be looking.
But we all look. So the timber trial. Now, me and Katie couldn't figure this out. Is it a
Ooh,
200 log, 220 log that you load onto the sled, or do you have to press those logs?
ooh, no, no. So
Oh.
they're having logs made or had
Mm.
logs made. I'm assuming at this point they're done.
Yeah.
With a recessed bar going the opposite way of the typical log handles. So you're going to have to pick it
Okay.
like a deadlift, but it's going to be inside the log.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And so we're going to have the 200 from, I don't know, something like 15 or 20 feet away. And then
Okay.
the 220 from 35 feet away. Load those into the sled and then drag the sled back.
Oh, okay. That kind of sounds
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't disliked the training for it.
Yeah.
But I also like there's only so much weight I can put on the sleds that I have. So it's like,
Yeah. Have you just been loading your sled, your logs to 200 and 220 or whatever and trying to figure out how to do that?
so I've been using one of the logs that we have at the gym has is kind of hollowed out in the middle.
Mhm.
So I took, like the powerlifting bench racks that have like the metal tubes,
Yep.
and I use those to slide into the hollow parts to use as front handles.
Strongman is such a redneck sport.
Which like I'm actually really, really thankful that one of the logs had the hollowed like spaces to do that
Yeah.
because in carrying the other logs with the regular handles actually
Mhm.
felt way easier than
Hmm.
having them the other way.
My question for you is you've been in the sport for 5 years now. 4 years? 5 years. 5 years. 2020.
Uh yeah, like 5 or 6.
Yeah. What do you see the future looking like? Because a lot of people, a lot of women that I've talked to so far on this podcast, they're all saying that in their state, in their country, it's more male dominated in the sport, and there might be 10 women across all weight classes at a show. Have you noticed that? And I'm not too sure if you like volunteer at shows or anything, but have you noticed through volunteerism or through competing more that the women's side is growing?
I do actually. I between volunteering and my boyfriend and I just hosted one last month.
Mhm.
And compared to when I first started, we couldn't. He competes as like a lightweight man, and I'm obviously open woman. And
Mhm.
when we started competing, I think that it was rare to have more than maybe one other competitor in our class.
Mhm.
Um, and now, I mean, you know, either volunteering or the one we hosted, the women are rolling in. I don't
Mhm.
think it's quite evened out, which I don't think is surprising.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the increase and the increased interest, um, it's definitely making a lot of progress.
Yeah, that's for sure. What do you think is piquing people's interest on the women's side of things? Like, what do you think women today are looking at and relating to, really? Because I mean, I joined it because I was an ex-athlete who wasn't done with that competitive fire, so I kept going. I know a lot of people see it as like their safe spot from coming out of a bad relationship. Some people see it as, a way to get rid of, rather than therapy, they go to the gym. Everyone has a different reason for joining the sport. So, what do you think is the main motivator these days for women? What have
I
you been
don't know if those
hearing?
motivators have changed much. I think it's just women are seeing more options for them. Um, they're seeing women on bigger stages. They're seeing opportunities for women. I think, gyms in general are, more inviting.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
and
true.
I think that's helping sort of include them. And they're finding sort of those same spaces that the men have had for longer periods. I
Yeah.
think it also helps, and I've seen an increase in like kid comps, having
Yeah.
like kids come out. And I think that's starting them young,
Yeah.
it's seeing their mom or dad compete. And so they're doing it. And so, like, especially the younger girls, right, are watching that. Um, and they're going to be more likely to get interested in wanting to do it at an even younger age. So it's opening up even more generations into it.
Yeah. So if you had strongman when you were younger, or just like a barbell in your hand when you were younger, do you think that you would still do strongman?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like the weird things,
Hmm.
right? That like really got me hooked.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, there was always going to be like that draw.
So what are you looking forward to the most about the Arnolds?
Um, I think just the entire different side of the experience. Because like again, I'd been there a few times on like the expo part, the Arnold amateur part, but being on like this totally separate, like, they have your hotel covered and all that. And it's like you really feel like a
Mhm.
pro.
Yeah.
So just that whole experience is probably the most exciting part.
Yeah. So you have your hotel covered. Did they cover flights too, or was that up to you?
They do cover flights. I'm driving, so I get
Okay.
like per mileage.
Right. Like a per diem for gas and
Yep.
stuff like that. Okay. And then from what I've heard, everyone gets a paycheck no matter how you place. Is that true?
Yes, they have the breakdown somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, the
And the
payout
big
depends on
question,
placing, but the entire roster does get something.
okay. And now the big question is it equal with the men?
No, no. I think if I
Pardon?
if I if I remember seeing if I remember correctly, I think
Ew.
I don't think they have published the men's exact
Of course not.
breakdown, but I think someone posted either last year's breakdown or the year
Mm.
before for the men. And the women aren't even at that level yet.
Which is crazy to me because personally, and like, no offense, Jen, I love you and I can't wait to cheer for you. But as soon as I'm done competing, I'm in the hotel room, foam rolling, massage
Yeah,
gunning. If there's a hot, like, I will be watching you from my phone in the hotel bathtub with
yeah,
Epsom salts. I love you and I hope you can hear me
yeah.
from the screen in my bathtub. But like, I would so much rather tune into the women than watch the men because I feel like I've seen the men compete all the time. I see the same roster every year at Rogue Arnold. Not always, I guess. I see the pretty much okay, let's say pretty much. I pretty much see the same roster at the Invitational. I pretty much see the same roster at WSM. Like, and the Giants live shows, the Shaw Classic. I like how Brian Shaw broke down who got invites. I feel like that's super important to know. But the Shaw at not at OSG, but like at these bigger shows at North Americans, just seeing the same athletes competing at all of these shows, I'm over it, and I'd rather watch the women compete all day. So like, you're not getting my viewership watching the men, you're getting my viewership watching the women.
Yeah,
And if viewership equals dollars on YouTube, there's less money going to the men. And I know so many people who have told me, I can't wait to watch the women compete. And it's like, well, what about the men? Yeah, like I can keep up on Instagram. So I've heard that from like people in my community here in Saskatchewan. So I find it absolutely absurd to say, well, the women don't bring in money. No, I think that's just something that you've been told to say over the years.
yeah. I think there's like this underlying thought that because the women aren't lifting the same numbers as the men, that people won't be
Crazy.
interested. but it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, first, if they're not getting the opportunity to be
Mhm.
watched, how are you expecting them to bring in money?
Yep.
Um, and like, we need to make that work because people
Yep.
clearly want to see it. And I agree with you. I mean, for the men's roster, it's more often than not the majority of, you know,
Yep.
it's going to be the
The
same
same.
men.
Yeah.
And not that they're not great, but like
Yeah.
we need
No,
some
not
kind of
discrediting them.
variable.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's like that's where I think a qualifying system is so important because then you can see the up and comers. Because I remember when Bobby Thompson won the Arnold Amateur and earned his invite, like it was almost like a rite of passage for the new pros was to be on that Arnold Pro stage the year after. So I would like to see it go back to that just because then you know who the new ones are and like that's kind of their debut. So personally I would like to see it go back to that so because you see these people randomly popping up it's like well who's that like I've never heard of them before and it's nice to be able to be like they won this and that's how they qualified. um but yeah, like I would much rather watch the women and even talking to people back home who watched OSG, people who watched me after day one, they said it was way cooler watching the open women than it was to watch any of the men. And it's just like and so the U64 and the open women from back home were so like my parents, my husband's parents, those were the two favorite weight classes to watch women, U64 and open, because you're seeing these tiny little giants absolutely like lifting more than me in some cases. I always say that. Like they probably I always give them that credit because like they're so small and they're so strong.
Yeah,
Like Nancy Johnson,
crazy.
she's so strong
She really is.
and she's so little. There are U64 athletes out there who are short, like maybe cracking 5 feet, maybe 5'2". I probably 5'2" max. There might be like a tall, Grace. She's like taller. She's like 5'8" or something like that, but she's a
Mhm.
U64. It's just so crazy that these women are lifting these weights. And then the open women, oh my God, like they're basically lifting what the open men lifted 7 years ago. So it's just wild. And I don't understand how people are saying, "Oh, we don't like watching the women," because my Cairo says he'd rather watch the women because he'd rather watch the freaks. So
Yeah. And I mean, I think, and maybe I'm biased, but like the women
definitely not.
are having fun. You can tell they're having fun, right?
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, it's not our livelihood. Like
Mhm.
none of the
For
women are
now,
really,
no.
only making money off the sport. And so like when we get to be on those stages, we're gonna have fun. Like we're gonna enjoy it. And I think you can see that difference
Hmm.
between the two
Interesting.
groups. I
Oh,
am just putting it
okay.
into the universe, okay,
Okay.
because we've mentioned the Shaw a few times.
Hmm.
Um, and I just saw
Hmm.
that he's bringing powerlifting to the Shaw
Oh,
Classic this year.
I knew
Um,
it.
so hoping at some point maybe he'll extend Strongest Man on Earth to also
Strongest
include
woman.
Strongest Woman on Earth on the
I
pro
would
side.
love that. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. I've taken up a lot of your time. So, before I let you go, what is coming up for you competition wise this season?
So after next weekend,
Mm-hmm.
I think Tim's Pro-Am,
Yep.
um, we are taking a vacation to Germany and
Ooh.
then Iceland. So
Ooh.
gonna see if maybe what rocks we can pick up in Iceland.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about after that. That might
Hmm.
depend on what happens next weekend. So,
True. That's true because the invitational is typically in October,
mhm.
November, October 31st to November 2nd. Aaron wrote it down. He's trying to put it out there that I'm getting an invite, but we'll see. I have to work hard this season. So, are you going to be doing the Shaw again, or no? You letting that go?
um, I would like to be able to do it again. Um, t- uh, Tim's is what, June? So
Hmm.
it would be a pretty short prep for me after we get back from
Right. Oh, yeah.
overseas. But depending on what the events are, maybe.
Yeah. I hope it's a 3 day again. I think that'd be good. I
Yeah.
prefer a 3 day because it's spread out so much better.
Yeah. I like not having to compete the whole day, right? Like we get the afternoon
Mhm.
to do what we need to recover.
Yeah. And then OSG again, are you kind of letting that one go too?
Yeah, that one, yeah, that one's probably on the back burner.
Right. So Arnold's and then hometown pro-am and then maybe the Shaw based on if the holiday goes well or if it's possible. And then OSG is like a back thought. Okay. Because like you do get an invite because you're top 10. So you don't have
Yeah,
to, which is nice. You don't have to qualify again.
yeah. I think the other one that is like temporarily depending on situation in the cards would be
Invitational.
America's Strongest Woman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Or maybe
But
the
that
Rogue
again,
Invitational.
yeah. So because the Invitational is usually around the same time as America's Strongest Woman. So if I did get an invite to
Yes.
that, it'd be kind of scheduling, event overlap,
Hmm.
all that to consider.
Yeah. So where can guests of the podcast find you? Instagram, Facebook, if you do that. I don't really add people on Facebook that I don't know. So where
Yeah,
can
I
they find
don't
you?
use Facebook in general much at all,
Not
but
even to talk to your mom and her aunt and your aunts?
no,
Oh,
no.
it's a shame.
I
I'm
don't
telling my
really
mom.
talk. I mean, like, I call my parents,
That's
I don't
fair.
know, once a month.
Wow.
Maybe more. I don't know. Usually I hear from them if like they've tried to call my daughter and
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't answer, and then they call me up. Like, we tried calling her and she didn't call back. Is she okay? Like, oh, so you don't want to talk to me. Like, you just you just want to make sure your grandkids are right.
That's fair. Here's a tracker. That's awesome. So you're mainly on Instagram then. So what's your Instagram
Yes.
that people can come find you and follow you?
It's revolta.de.phoenix. Feinix.
Amazing. So sponsors you heard where she can find her, not Facebook, Instagram. You can direct message her there. She's very prompt in her messaging. I much better than me. So well, Jen, good luck at the Arnold. I can't wait to see you. We definitely need to get a top 10 girls photo by the Arnold again. I think that would be super fun. But yeah, I'm just so excited that you're on that stage. It's well deserved, well earned invite. And you have a lot of women and men cheering for you. So I cannot wait to see how you do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, you guys can tune in to, I'm going to be posting a video on YouTube, so you can find that there. And I'm probably going to be going around and doing some live interviews as well. So stay tuned and we'll check you guys out next week. Bye.